Alright, I'm back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be going over one of Bobby Fischer's most famous games. This was played in the 1958-1959 U.S. Championship against Samuel Reshevsky. Bobby Fischer with the white pieces, and this game is famous for the brilliant opening trap that Bobby Fischer plays. And there's a very brilliant series of tactical moves that Fischer employs to get a winning position very quickly. So let's just jump right in. Pawn to e4, pawn to c5. This is the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, knight c6. Pawn to d4, signaling the open Sicilian. And then after c takes d4, knight takes d4, pawn to g6, we have the accelerated dragon. So black is looking to play bishop to g7 and put this bishop on the long diagonal quickly. A very reasonable plan. White plays bishop to e3 to reinforce this knight on d4, maybe look to play queen d2 and bishop h6, stuff like that. But the bishop is well placed on e3. Black plays bishop to g7. White plays knight to c3. And knight to f6 is played. Fischer plays bishop to c4. Fischer was a big proponent of putting the bishop on c4 in lines against the dragon as well as lines against the Naudorf. This was a idea that he used many times, putting the bishop on a very aggressive square, targeting this weak point on f7. And we'll see in this game that this comes in handy as black falls into an opening trap that most people would not expect. Black castles. White plays bishop to b3, just getting the bishop out of harm's way. Sometimes this bishop can be vulnerable on c4 to various attacks, but on b3 the bishop is nice and secure while still having a nice influence along this diagonal. So in this position, the critical mistake, black plays knight to a4. So this seems like a reasonable move, just going after the bishop on b3, trying to get the bishop pair. However, Fischer has a brilliant idea up his sleeve, and Reshevsky is not ready for what is about to hit him. So pawn to e5 is played. This is a good move. It is really the only move that really presses for a big advantage for white here, and it is the critical move. So as you can see, this knight does not have a lot of squares to go to. If you go to h5, g4 traps the knight. Can't go to g4 because that hangs the knight. Can't go to e4, can't go to d5 because of this knight. So you really only have one move. You have knight to e8. Knight takes b3 is something to consider, but then after e takes f6, knight takes a1, f takes g7, white is going to be doing quite well, and at the end of the day, white is going to be winning a little bit of material here. Something like rook e8. If rook e8 or let's say king takes g7, they're both pretty similar, then white simply can just regain this material, and at the end of the day, white has two minor pieces for a rook and a pawn, which is beneficial for the side with the minor pieces, especially when there are this many pieces still on the board. So going back to the game, after knight a5, pawn to e5 was played. And if you're not going to play knight takes b3, the only square you can put your knight is on e8. So knight to e8 was played. And then Fischer uncorks the absolutely brilliant bishop takes f7. So this is a brilliant move, and I'm sure it took Reshevsky by surprise. He was probably shocked when he saw this. So the idea is after, let's say rook takes f7 is played. Knight to e6 would be played, and as you can see, due to this bishop's influence on the b6 square and due to this pin down the d file, this queen is going to be lost. So as you can see, the knight traps the queen, and that's going to be the ball game. In the game, it was king takes f7, and the crazy thing is, even here, white plays knight to e6. Even though king takes e6 seems like a possibility, if king takes e6 is played, this is going to be leading to checkmate. After queen to d5 check, king has to go to f5, and then g4 check, just luring the king out even further. King takes g4, and then rook g1. You can see the king is just going to get absolutely toasted over here on this side of the board. Let's say king to h4 is played. Then something like bishop to g5, king to h5, and then queen to d1 is going to be leading to checkmate. You can give a useless block on f3, but this is going to be leading to checkmate. So after king takes f7, knight to e6, once again traps this queen on d8. An absolutely brilliant move, putting the knight on a square where it can be captured by multiple pieces, but it is still just completely winning for white. So in the game, d takes e6 was tried, but after queen takes d8, white simply is up a queen for 2 minor pieces, and Fischer went on to convert this game in nice style. Fischer would not lose a game with 2 minor pieces to a queen. The game was over after several more moves. Fischer just probing black's position, and then eventually, after trading off some pieces, white is going to get a winning position. After rook takes b7, this is pretty much the end of the game. Queen to a8 is played, and black simply resigns because, as you can see, the knight is hit, and then if the knight moves, the rook falls. If you play rook to d7, you simply play queen to c8. That would be sufficient, as well as something like just pushing this a pawn. Black simply is not going to have enough material here. And I'm surprised he was even able to hold on to this position for as long as he did, but he was probably stunned after seeing this opening trap. After bishop takes f7, it's also important to note that king h8 is another possibility. However, knight to e6 would still be played. There's no way to avoid this queen trap, and the game is going to be over regardless. But this was Bobby Fischer's most famous opening trap, and it's definitely something to keep in mind with this bishop takes f7 followed by knight to e6 tactic. And whenever white plays this bishop to c4 and bishop to b3, whenever this bishop is on the diagonal targeting this weak f7 point, this is something that black has to keep in mind. So that's going to be all for this video, but hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will be looking to make more chess opening trap videos in the future.